I want to talk about something that might annoy some of you. No, it wasn't as romantic as you remember it. It wasn't as dramatic as you keep telling people it was. It wasn't even that special. And somewhere in you, you already know that. Let me explain what I mean. We all know someone, maybe it's you, who talks or thinks about their past like it was a movie. Like those were the days people say like you had to be there. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. And sometimes, like, sure, that could be true, but the vast majority of the time, most of the time, that's not memory, that's editing. That's a director going back into old footage, like cutting out the boring parts and cutting out the parts where you were miserable and you were just unhappy all the time. And like, here's the uncomfortable part. The reason people do this, I feel like it's not because the past was like that specific memory was good, you know. It's because they can't handle the alternative conclusion, like which is I wasted, a bunch of time and effort. I made choices that didn't lead anywhere, and that chapter of my life meant nothing and nobody wants to sit with that of course, like obviously, so the brain does something sneaky instead, like it doesn't force you to face the waste. Instead it just quietly reclassifies it, like suffering becomes the development, character building. Wasted years become the experience I needed at that moment. I was young, so I had to go through this. A relationship that was mediocre for like 3 straight years become we had something real. It's not lying exactly. It's more like self consolation. A private ceremony where you get to award yourself, meaning you never actually earned. And I've started calling this a kind of mental masturbation. And I don't say that to be crude. I just say it because it's the most accurate word I've got. Like it feels good in the moment. It requires no external validation, and it produces literally nothing. No growth, no lesson, no change in behavior. Just a warm little hit of like at least I meant something, and then you move on unchanged, ready to do the same thing, same thing, like again next time. So like now, like why does the brain do this in the first place? Like I don't think it's random. I think it's some kind of like a defense mechanism. Like if you're a creature that has to keep moving forward, keep making decisions, even when it's like not making decisions. That's also making decisions. Part of it making decision. Keep betting on like on an uncertain future. Let's say like you cannot afford to walk around constantly aware that half your past decisions were like dead ends. So that would paralyze you literally. So evolution, or whatever you want to call the process that built our minds, gave us a shortcut, which is instead of processing the loss and honestly, we retroactively assign it value. So we tell ourselves, well, at least again, like now I've got the experience, at least I know what that's like, at least I'll never let my own kids go through that. Notice that phrase, at least. That's not tell, like like that's what tells everything. Like at least it's the sound of a mind settling for a like smaller, safer story because the real one was too heavy to carry. Like they cannot just deal with it raw. And look, like I get why we do it. Like it's not stupidity, it's not weakness, it's actually just how humans are built. Like basically we fantasize about the unknown, and we romanticize the known but gone, like the past. That's genuinely the same instinct running in two directions. Nostalgia isn't a bug. Like it's the exact same mechanism as hope, just pointed backwards instead of forwards. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. You every single time you do it to yourself, you think about your past, and keep feeling nostalgic about this moment in your life that wasn't even something, and you start noticing it like everywhere. Like you see it in people who talk about how hard they had it growing up, like it's a trophy, and sometimes sure, like struggle does build something real in you. Like I'm not denying that entirely, but a lot of the time it's someone who spent years broken or years grinding at something that led nowhere, and they cannot let that time be meaningless. So like it gets like relabeled, like rebranded. It built character, like maybe, or maybe it just built a story you needed to tell yourself so you could sleep at night, so like you see it in breakups a lot. Like we had something real. Like did you though? Because like, or do you need to believe that? Because again, like the alternative is admitting you gave years of your own, like one life, to something that was average or even bad the entire time. You just wasted, the mind does not like to sunk cost, like sitting there with no narrative payoff attached to it. So it manufactures a fake one. So you see it at the level of entire generations. Like every single generation says the same thing. Things were better back then. Even the kids, like kids in like primary school, like age of like 10, 9, these kids would say the same thing when they grow up to like junior high, and every single, like again, like they remember the music, the friendships, the people around them, the simplicity. They conveniently forget the poverty or the disease, the wars, the people who had no rights at all. Like it's the same defense mechanism I just described, like except now it's not one person's ego, it's a whole culture's ego running the same trick at scale, like at different scale. And by the way, like this is exploitable. A huge amount of political rhetoric is built entirely on this instinct. Like make it like it used to be for what? Like I mean, for who? Like most of the times, it's not aimed for someone. Like it's just, yeah, it used to be great. Like make America great again, kind of thing. I'm not specifically against that agenda, but I think like that fits this in this narrative perfectly. Like you even see it in art, like the whole starving artist myth. You have to suffer to make something real. Like sometimes constraint does sharpen work. I won't pretend otherwise again, but a lot of that mythology is just artists who spent a decade broke and ignored, like needing that decade to mean something. So the poverty, the very poverty gets repackaged as authenticity, like something that he had to go through, like and a drama as well, like a new narrative. Because the alternative, I just had bad luck and bad decisions for 10 years, is literally like so miserable and unbearable for anyone. And you see it in people who move away from their hometown, or drift from like an old friend group, and suddenly describe it like paradise, when if you'd ask them at that time, that moment, they were just desperate to leave. Like distance just doesn't just soften the bad memories, it just actively flips them 160. So like here's the actual thread running through all of this. I feel like romanticizing the past was never really about the past, but it's a tax. Some kind of tax your ego pays you, so it doesn't have to sit with a harder, um how do I say, present tense conclusion that a choice was wrong, like that time was wasted, and that person or a place or a version of your life just wasn't that special at all. Like so, like nostalgia is a retroactive meaning making applied to the things that never came with meaning built in. So like literally, they aren't even worth fit to like think about them again, because they are like the opposite um memories of yourself, of your life that didn't have meaning at all. So like now I like I do want to be fair here because I don't want to think every act of looking back is self-deception. Obviously, like sometimes like distance really does let you see value that was invisible up close. Like you see, you feel the emptiness when it's gone. Like you realize that it was, you were happy, a lot happier back then than right now, and you feel like you get the kind of, you realize how do I say that, you realize what kind of things that make you happy in your life. So I wouldn't say that like every single self looking back is like deception, but like you didn't appreciate like someone who was hard on you, you know, like or mentor, let's say a coach who didn't coddle you, you know, like until years later when you realize what it actually gave you. Like that's real, that happens. It's like, how do you tell the difference? Like here's a test that I use, like just asking yourself again, like trying to be super aware of yourself, like does this reframing change what I would actually do going forward, you know, like if you look back at something and you would genuinely choose it again, knowing that, knowing what you know now, you know, like that's real appreciation. But if you wouldn't choose it again, like if you know deep down you would run the other way, like and you're still calling it meaningful anyway, like that's not appreciation anymore, you know, like that's decoration, you know. That's you dressing up a decision so you don't have to call it what it actually was. And I think the whole point of doing this, of actually sitting down and being honest about your own past, isn't to feel bad. It's about it's not about self punishment. Like it's about freeing your yourself from having to defend decisions that don't need defending anymore. Like you're allowed to just say like, that didn't work out, like I was stupid, or maybe not stupid because that's like identifying yourself as stupid. You just made bad decisions like this time, and you can't turn it back. So like, okay, I admit it. You know, that chapter was kind of wasted. You know, I learned nothing from it, and that's fine. You know, because I'm not that person anymore. I have much bigger potential, and I can win this race. You know, and I don't need like every year of my life to just have a lesson in it. You know, like some years just happen, just pass by, and the sooner you can say that out loud without flinching or like feeling like you're a really bad person, you're like you aren't doing enough, like the sooner you stop needing this kind of stories, and you can just leave the next chapter instead of narrating the last one. I think that's when you become the kind, like you become the type of person who you should be, and grow as a person in general. Because I still find this find people doing this in, even among people, like among my dad's age, like dad's friends, let's say, or my uncles. Let actually a brother of my dad's side, like so my uncle on my dad's side, he says it about like he's really into his past. Let's say like he always romanticizes his past. So yeah, that really is about it in this video. Thank you guys for watching, and have you guys, I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.